Thanks to everybody. Thanks to everyone for being here. We are here to celebrate and learn from Kunle Afolayan, one of the greatest figures in one of the greatest industries in the world. Kunle Afolayan is an award-winning Nollywood actor, filmmaker, movie producer, director, and multiple entrepreneur. He is a son of the late Adeyemi Afolayan, also known as Adelove. Kunle is the CEO and founder of Cap Motion Pictures and Golden Effects Pictures. He is widely credited for elevating the quality of Nollywood movies through larger budgets, shooting on 35mm, releasing in cinemas, and improving cliché Hollywood storylines. After starting his film career as an actor in the 1999 political drama Shawaroide, Afolayan made his directorial debut in 2006 with Irakbada, a Nigerian supernatural thriller, which won the African Movie Academy Award for Best Film in an African language. His fellow underwriting credits included Figurine, Phone Swap, October 1, and Citation. October 1 was the winner of 16 major African movie awards in 2015 and the second highest grossing Nigerian film in Nigerian cinemas at the time of its release. Afita Afolayan was to repeat 2 years later with a film titled The CEO. In 2021, the director signed a 3-picture deal with Netflix. Swallow, the screen adaptation of Sefi Atta's book of the same name, was the first to be released in October 2021, followed by Anikulapo, an epic Nigerian fantasy released in September 2022. 11 days after its release, it was the #1 most watched non-English Netflix original film. We have here with us a trio of consummate scholars of Nigerian film, who shall take us through incisive, in-depth, and deeply enriching engagements with our guests. These scholars are Molara Wood, Steve Ayorinde, and Petru Folajimi. Each of them will have 30 minutes to ask their questions, after which the host will respond after each set of questions has been asked. Then we shall then proceed to the audience. Then from the audience, our questioners will converge for closing remarks, and then we shall conclude. We shall proceed in this order. We shall start with Molara Wood. Who is Molara Wood? She is one of the most prominent female figures in Nigerian arts. She is a writer, not a journalist, critic, editor, and speechwriter. She won the inaugural John LaRose Memorial Short Story Competition and received a Commonwealth Broadcasting Association Award for her fiction. Please let me correct myself. She is one of the most illustrious of Nigerian writers and artists. That is a better framing, please forgive me. She is widely published internationally and has served on the judging panels of several awards, including the Zuma International Film Festival, the Tissadat Prize for Literature, and the Kuramo Writers Prize. Described as, quote, one of the eminent voices in the arts in Nigeria, unquote, and with credits across film, literature, and visual arts. She has served as art and culture editor of Next newspapers and was for many years an arts columnist for The Guardian. Molara Wood is one of 10 Nigerian women writers featured in a Google Arts and Culture exhibit on the city of Lagos and was selected for the Lower Third West African Writers Residency 2022. She also hosts the Art for the People podcast. She's the author of Indigo, a collection of short stories with a strong focus on the condition of women in society. She is deeply grounded in Nollywood history, Nollywood aesthetics, and particularly on the trajectory, the orientations, and the possibilities of understanding Kunle Afolayan. Please, Malara Wood, share with us.
Hello, good afternoon, Lagos time, everybody. I'd just like to check to begin with that people can see me because my video has interference on my end here. Can people see me, please?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. It's wonderful to be here. It's a great honor to be asked by Professor Toyin Falola to be part of this wonderful session and to be engaging with my brother, Kunle Afolayan, whose works I have followed for many, many years, and I've engaged with him personally and with his work and all his endeavors. And I also pay attention to what he's doing on social media, et cetera, et cetera. And one of my questions today will be even to his use of social media. Because he's so wide in the various ways in which he connects with the audiences. So I'll go straight to the questions, and we'll go to our maestro here. My first question to begin with, can you share a bit about what drives you as a filmmaker, as someone who tells stories through the medium of film? When you're making a film, what at the very basic level are you trying to say?
Okay, well, thank you, my sister. First of all, let me use this opportunity to welcome everybody to this session. And of course, special thanks goes to Professor Toyin Falola for, putting this together. How do I start? For me, it doesn't take me long to convert thoughts and idea to bring it into life. What I mean is, I usually don't really do long-term plan. Most of the time, ideas come, but let me take it back a little. Growing up, of course, I was fortunate to experience firsthand production through my father and his crew. And but at that time, there was never that thought, around wanting to go into filmmaking. It was just, a young boy, who is fascinated about or with what goes on around him. But then I never thought it was something I was going to do. But later I realized that storytelling is something that, I'm gifted. And then I also figure that I am very connected with my environment in a lot. And I also need to establish that hanging around like Tunde Kelani, TK, was one of the things that stamp the fact that, I have a lot of
I can't see Kunle Afolayan. Can other people see him?
There seems to be something wrong with his video.
Okay, okay, okay.
I
Hopefully
can
he'll
see
join
you.
us back soon. Okay,
Yes,
he's coming back
I
on
can see
now.
you.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay, sorry. Can we hear me now?
Welcome back.
Thank
Yes.
you. Sorry, okay.
Okay,
So I
great.
was saying that, Tunde Kelani played, a major role in, helping me to understand and form how connected I am with, the culture and the values, in our cultures and our ways. And I decided that, I was very intentional about about the kind of stories that, I really would love to tell. So if you look at majorly all the films that I've done, even though there are different genres, I've done, a comedy, phone swap and the rest, I've done dramas, I've done thriller. All of these films still reflect or somehow connect to our culture. So TK really helped. And then I think my upbringing and then being able to see values in the things around me also really helped.
Wonderful, thank you. You mentioned intentionality, you mentioned Kelani. One of the questions I would have loved to ask, which is actually not on my list, would have been on your influences, and I'm glad that you answered that now. And the intentionality is certainly something that I've noticed in how you move and how you do things. My second question, I'd like you to talk a bit about your directing style. When directing an actor in a scene, what are you trying to achieve? How do you get the performance or the nuance that you're seeking? Are there any do's and don'ts? Over to you.
Thank you.
Did you get that?
I got it.
Yes.
Um,
okay, brilliant.
There are different types of directors. You have directors who focus a lot on framing and visual style of telling stories. There are directors who focus on directing the actors. There are directors who are very particular about dialogue and all of that. But I think I'm a director who is very key and very firm when it comes to all of these areas. Understanding the actors, for me is so important. And then I have vast knowledge, about the technicalities of making films. So I say to a lot of my actors that one of the key things that I will always look out for is discipline, discipline and what's that other word? Because if an actor is disciplined, then you will have long-term relationship, with a lot of filmmakers, be it the producers, or the directors. And then when it comes to storytelling, balancing these three aspects is very important. Say, for example, your actors are great. They get their lines so quickly, and then they have a great idea of how to play with the camera. But then you as a director don't understand the technicalities of film. For example, knowing what lens to use when you want to really capture emotions, you know, understanding that, okay, maybe zooming in or tracking in, you know, or sliding in, play certain role. When I make film, I don't only play the role of a director, because while filming, I'm already thinking of editing. I'm already thinking of how I want to bring the story together. I'm already thinking even for the editor. All right. So, and then from pre-production, I usually will engage the director of photography and then the production designer. Say, for example, Anikulapo, well, we were meant to work with Badnego as art director and production designer, but for some reason, he wasn't available, and I took that role upon myself. So designing the set and, you know, also choosing the right costumes and colors and balancing, you know, the set with the costume and the texture of the actors' faces, and then going further to work with the makeup artist to say, look, okay, don't shape their, you know, the armpit, and make sure no friction on their, you know. These are roles of course, directors and production designer, but these are things that I'm always very particular about. At the same time, I have clear vision of how I want each of the scenes to connect together. You know, so I think it's just a case of paying attention to the artistic side of things and the technicality side of things. And I think this is very important for any director who really would like to balance the aesthetics and the visual, you know, aspect of filmmaking.
Thank you. This is so illuminating. I remember having a conversation with you actually before you went off to go and shoot Anikulapo, and you were talking about even little details such as if there was an actor that had, you know, was obviously not their natural color, they were not going to be on this film because it's set in a time when, you know, you didn't have, women had, you know, their God-given color. So let me move on quickly because I'm conscious of time and I don't know how much time I have. So let me shuffle my questions a bit. You come from a top-tier artistic lineage as the son of Adelove, the great Adeyemi Afolayan, a legend in his own time and maker of many classic films. And now here you are, a filmmaker in your own right. Was it inevitable that you would follow in your father's footsteps? And how easy was it getting people to take you seriously in the beginning, given the son of whom you are?
Okay, well, I think the only time someone really referenced my father and tried to, like, you know, bring my consciousness to the fact that I am not Adelove was in 1997. I remember Hostages by Tadio Gidon, you know, was released, and, you know, I saw it and I was really like, you know, I really could act better than Tokpa Ido, who played the lead, you know, and then I went to Tadio Gidon's office. He was not around. I waited a bit, and then he came. And I introduced myself. He was not familiar with me, you know. Uncle T, I think, studied in America, so he's more. And I said, look, I'm Adelove's son. I would like to act. And he said, okay, put down your name. You know, if we have anything, we'll call you. And I left, you know, unhappy. And I'm like, I'm Adelove's son. Why will he not give me attention? And then the next day, I went to TK, or 2 days after. But when I went to TK, I didn't say to TK that I would like to act, because I remember then that was actually the period where Nollywood picked up. That is the digital era of filmmaking. And I think I saw Mortal Inheritance and some films. And I have these two friends, Pamela and Demola, and we're always saying we want to make film. They also my father's film. I would say, oh, we could bridge the gap. You know, these films, the stories are good, but technically they are not great. Why can't they do like Ogunde, Adelove, and the rest? And then when I got to TK, I said to TK that I would like to make a film. And he said to me, he said, who are you to want to make a film? And he said, look, your father,
Kelani.
yes, Tunde Kelani.
Okay.
And he said that your father was a filmmaker, does not make you one, because filmmaking is not something you inherit. It's like trying to be a doctor or trying to be a lawyer. So he said, you have to learn. He said, but the good thing is, look, you're going to school and all of that. So, and then I think you have to look for, I mean, you know, to start as an actor like your father. So why not try that? And then he said, well, we're working on something. You can come next year to audition for Shawarori Day. And that was how my journey as an actor started. So then in my head, I got it. And I'm like, I'm not Adelov. And if really I want to do film, I have to learn it, because, you know, posing or claiming to be from that lineage, you know, maybe as an actor, it could help. They can say, oh, acting runs in the family, but you can't say filmmaking, because there are so many departments. You have the you know, the camera, you have grip, you have lighting, you know, you have makeup, you have it's an ecosystem. So you can't just say because I was born into the, then I could do all of this. No. And then I started grooming myself, and that's how I got to where I am today.
Wonderful. It's a great journey. So you're clearly a chip off the old block. I remember you talking with passion and nostalgia about operating the projector at your father's film screenings back in the day. Can you share a bit about how your upbringing, that wonderful upbringing, how it prepared you for what you are doing now?
Okay, well, you know, right at this moment, if anybody is put through what I went through, they will call it child abuse, because it was really child abuse. Sometimes I will skip, you know, stop school just because I had to follow the traveling theater, and you know, we call it traveling cinema, to different locations, even in West Africa, as far as Cotonou, then Lomé, Abidjan, you know, to screen my father's films. And that was how I learned how to do like ticketing and then publicity for film, and then operating the you know, the projector. Because at that time, a filmmaker, you know, is also the exhibitor, and is the, you know, the producer, and is the, you know, they pretty much
He's charging the tickets.
Exactly.
The box office.
Exactly. So I did all of this, and I think that opened me up to learning and understanding the business side of filmmaking. Yeah, things have changed a little bit now, but then there are a lot of things that, you know, I mean, if you look at it, they still connect. Ticketing before was manual, now it's more electronic, but then it is the same kind of template. You buy it, then they cut it at the gate and all. And I also got to know how to like do return ticket where people cheat, you know, and do all. So I learned all of this unknowingly, you know, and that prepped me for my journey as well. So when I started, I was pretty much doing the same thing myself until you know, the options, distribution options came, where you could do DVD, VCD, and also I started with doing the same thing they were doing, which is taking the film around schools and available cinemas before DSTV and the rest started buying content. But I think it's safe to say that up till now, those things that I learned then are still so, they come handy and very useful. And every time I try to do something new, I try to balance the two. To say, okay, this was what it was. Okay, why they got here. This is why they got stuck. This is why they were broke. Okay, I don't want to be broke, so let me try this. You know, so that has really helped me in balancing the business side and also the creative side of things.
Great. What about the preservation of your father's films? I remember I watched 3 of them last year at Cap Cinema, Ije Ominira Kadara, and Taxi Driver. So it's not a total blank that we say, as in the films of Ogunde, where it seems nobody seems to know where they are. Can you talk about what steps you are taking to ensure that Adelove's films are preserved for posterity, and help us also to reflect on the need for film archives as valuable cultural heritage in Nigeria?
Thank you very much for that question. Look, all over the world, they have archives and, for classics, for films. The films are, so well preserved in a lot of countries. And I also got to know that there are funds now all over the world to try and restore a lot of films. But that is not something that, I don't know, in Nigeria, we're not, I don't know why we're not looking in that direction. But for me, because of my experience and how important I think those films are, I took it upon myself to ensure that we look for them, and we found them in Slough, in London. And since 2002, it's actually 2002, I've been engaging the lab to see how to get those films out. And look, the thing is, they have other films of other Nigerian filmmakers, not just my father. And a lot of times they reach out to the filmmakers. I remember recently, I worked with a lady called Modupe in London who has been championing these things. And recently, she was asking me again, Kunle, how do we reach out to the estates of the people who owns this film? And I said, look, when I come to London in the next few days, I think we should go back to lab and see what film we can get out, and then inform. And of course, TK and I, because the first time I went in 2002, I went with TK. We've managed to get Ije Ominira Kadara, Taxi Driver 1 and 2. Now, we have two of those, the remaining films, Iyaniwura and Ija Orogun, there. And we've been trying to get these films out. And the problem in the last 5 years is the fact that some reels are missing. When they check the storage, they couldn't find, in Ije Ominira case, they couldn't find some of the pictures, but they have all the sound. In Iyaniwura, they found all the sound, maybe 2 reels, 1 is missing. And we've been at it. I recently just engaged an independent person who will go into the vault again in UK to search. And since we like Telecine and converted those films to digital, we've also been paying for storage in London to keep the raw files there. So those things are there forever. And because we now have digital version, it means we can preserve them, forever. And recently, some of my brothers, we found like reels, 16mm reels of Iyaniwura and Ija Orogun. Even though they are really bad, they've been, but I played them and I thought, okay, maybe if we take them, they could work on them. So we're doing everything possible to ensure that. And I think other families of filmmakers should also take, such step, because some of these films are still out there. I feel that I hope my father that much because I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing. For those who don't understand Yoruba, I'm glad that, it was my father. And I think following his legacy, and also because it's like me benefiting from what he started, I think I owe him that much. And I think the younger generation, every time I posted things about or clips of the film, I see the reaction from people like, these look better than what we're even doing now. So it's a great thing.
Wonderful. Congratulations on your global hit, Anikulapo, which is streaming on Netflix. In this film, you bring together so many veterans of Yoruba stage and screen: Karim Adepoju, aka Baba Wande, Yinka Quadri, Tony Azan, aka Ogogo, and so many others. This really struck a chord with audiences as an emotional touchstone across generations of the Yoruba film tradition. Tell us why you brought these iconic actors on board, why you thought it was important to do so, and what it was like working with them on this movie.
Well, I grew up with these people. They all, 90% or 99% of them featured in some of my father's films. But beyond that, these are, they're veterans. These are theater icons. These are real talents. These are not actors who are acting for fame or acting for money. Most of them have been doing this for 40, 50 years because I think when my father did Ijaminera featured Babawande as one of the leads, and Ijaminera was shot in 1978. So if we do the calculation, it means that, Babawande has been on screen for like 50 years or more. So, but then Anikulapo is a film set back in time, in Oyo Empire, 17th centuries. And how can you possibly capture, the authenticity of this film, using the right language, using the right people, mannerism, and all of that. If you don't engage those guys who have a better understanding. I do a lot of research, and, before going into any film, I reference some films, not only Nigerian films. I look at films from different part of the world, and any film that is sort of tied to time or maybe set back in time, it's important to do a bit of research. For example, October 1, we went through the same, kind of research. I don't just leave it to the art department to do that. And I do a lot myself, so that at least when we come together, we can be sure that, okay, we're all like accurate to a large extent. So Babawande, or Uncle B, Ogabelu, Papilu, where I was watching the Yanewura recently, and Papilu played lawyer, and he played my father's father. And since that era, you've never seen Aluwe in that light again. People were so stereotyped, and they will only feature him as comedian and all of that. And that's why I brought him back in, Anikulapo to play the chief and play, a normal, person, not a stereotyped, comedian. And these guys, most importantly, these guys don't have retirement. They don't, they as long as they live and they function, they rely on, doing this thing they love most. And if they are rendered redundant, that could really affect, a lot of them, and they could lose their life or sight. And I think I hold them that much, to, and I've always done this with, at least in the last 5 years, I got really conscious of it. And I felt it's important to always, engage them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing that and for having that that consciousness. Performers, they perform until they draw their last breath. And by having them in such a decisive way in this movie, you were able to also introduce them and their geniuses to new audiences. So that's just great. Now, the next question, I have to ask you this question, right? Recently, the Nigerian Official Oscars Selection Committee, the NOSC, failed to submit a film to the Academy as Nigeria's entry for the Best International Film category for the 2023 Oscars, which will hold on March the 12th, actually. Controversy ensued because a lot of people, myself included, felt that 2 or 3 Yoruba language films, including Anikulapo, were eligible, and one of them should have gone forward to the Oscars. I'd like you to reflect on what unfolded during that controversy, and also to look ahead. What happens now? Should the fate of Nigerian filmmakers remain in the hands of the committee as presently constituted? What do you think should happen going forward in the Nigerian film industry in terms of the Oscars?
Well, like Yorubas was also seen 11 or 2 boys.
Oh, Buyosi.
So, but the thing is, honestly, up till now, it's difficult to comprehend. And, I don't get it. It's just I don't understand it. There's no way, or there's no reason, they can give to justify what they've done. I mean, there are 3 films, so, and these films, in terms of language, in terms of eligibility, I think they're eligible. So I think it was the whole thing, cancellation and trauma and everything, was due to internal conflicts, which they find difficult to resolve amongst them. And I think it just means that they are not competent. And I don't think the life, the soul, and the hard work of creative Nigerians, should be, vested in the hand of those kind of people. Again, like I said, it is difficult to understand. Election over Ageshekole, Anikulapo, these were the final 3, all right, that, seem to be in contest. So, and they never came out to say, look, this is why. Even when Oscars, requested that, they revote and rerun, the votes, they still didn't do it. So maybe one day there will be an opportunity to bring them to the table and ask them, ask the likes of Mr. Mahmoud and Shaibu and Chinezie, Motola, and the rest of them, because quite a number of them they are key players in the industry. And these are people that, we've always had meeting, discussing the future, of the industry. And yet they did that. So for me, I don't understand. I put it behind me. But then, are they competent? I would say no, because if few people, and we'll keep abusing Nigeria, if few members of a committee find it difficult to reach a consensus over things that are very clear, it's not so difficult, then I think there's problem.
So what happens now? Are we going to do this next year, the same thing?
So,
like this, we go.
Well, I'm glad that people like you, the media, the journalists, people think, but the honest truth is Nigerians don't say things as they are. People find it difficult to say the truth. We all saw the video, or, the interaction, the live session between them. And you could tell that it was a disgrace. It was so disgraceful, seeing the caliber of people who were in that group, and then they started attacking and antagonizing, and people were being talked down, upon, and, the integrity was, like questioned. I don't know, but I want to believe that Oscars is their platform. They know what to do. Or maybe we should face our AMA awards and the local ones. And I don't know, because our fate is in the hand of just these few people who feel we're not good enough.
Okay, you just mentioned AMA now, and during that controversy, Peace Anyamo Sigwe was actually, to me, one of the few people that spoke with sincerity and with clarity. Sadly, we've lost her. Founder of the Africa Movie Academy Awards, the AMA, which you yourself, you have won. You knew her well in the industry. What can you say about her impact in the Nigerian film industry and in African cinema as a whole?
No, for me, look, I'm sad, but at the same time, I'm not sad, because, look, the kind of legacy she left, I think she did a bit. I've known her, for some time, and she wasn't, her life was not just about the awards. Even before the awards started, she's always championed, a lot of things around the development of African cinema, not only in Nigeria, but, to the rest of Africa, by extension. So I'm not sure anybody could step into what she's done. She was selfless. She just wanted to, take Nigeria and Africa to the rest of the world. And that is why, a lot of times when Amma started, she will bring, Whitaker and all of these guys to Nigeria to meet with us, because she figured we can't take every Nigerians to America. And I think that was selfless. I think a lot of African filmmakers, in Kenya, South Africa, and all of that, can't ignore the impact that Peace Iron Osigwe, created, and add the value she added to the entire African space. So I'll just say, may her soul rest in peace, and I hope that the family will find a way to continue what she started.
Thank you. Moderator, how much time do I have left? Can I have some indication, maybe by text? You did not get round to answering a question I put to you some time ago for a paper that I was working on. So let me ask you here now about your approach to music in your films. You have taken to having soundtrack, well done to you, produced by Kent Edunjobi, for instance. So what are the considerations when you're deciding on the soundscape for your films?
Okay, well, I think if I wasn't a filmmaker, I probably would have been a musician. I love music, and whenever I'm filming, even from location, when a scene is set, to a large extent, from there I start having an idea of what kind of music will fit in, and all of that. And that's why for my films, the different films, if you look at October 1, you will see that we featured Dr. Victor Olaiya, some of his old tracks, like 2 or 3 of them, because I really wanted something that will match the period and, sync with the scenes as well. But I also, because I learned this also from my father and Ogunde, it was a big deal then. You cannot make a film without releasing the full album soundtrack, in the 70s, 80s, up to early 90s. Most of those theater practitioners, will do their film, but at the same time, because they're all multi-talented, they play instruments, they sing, they choreograph, they will do like 5, 6, 7 track album, which will release on the same day the film premieres. And I decided to follow the same thing, even if I'm not the one who will render or create the song or the score. I'm still very involved. Like whenever Kent is in the studio, whenever he sent me an idea of what he's writing, I always contribute to it, and I give him my idea. Even when the rendition and the score is done, I still will listen and say, no, can you change this to this? So I'm fully involved, not only in the picture, but also in the full sound and score, up to soundtrack of my films.
Very quickly, do you think that film is given sufficient consideration in the Nigerian film industry as a whole? And that will be my last question for this segment.
Well, I think the practitioners they're taking the bull by the horn. I think they're doing amazingly well. I think everybody on their own have contributed immensely to the development of film in Nigeria. We don't wait for government intervention. We don't wait for, and I'll give it to every Nigerian filmmakers out there. Whether you are doing it and putting it on YouTube, or you're doing it and putting it on any platform, as long as you're telling stories without waiting for support. In a lot of other countries, South Africa, most Francophone countries, individuals don't put their money in film. They wait for government funds from Europe, to make films. And that's why most of them will make one film in 5 years. But in Nigeria, we're very, entrepreneurial in nature. We don't wait. We have ideas and we just want to run with it. And I really give it to Nigerian filmmakers. And again, I give it to the streaming platforms, because the dynamic sort of changed since the last 4 or 5 years when the likes of Netflix and Prime and HBO started touchlighting, and now I think it's more comfortable, or it's more convenient for filmmakers now to stay creative because they get funded or they get commissioned by some of these platforms, to make content.
Thank you very much. And that will be all for me for now. Thank you so much for answering all.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Okay, that was beautiful. Thanks for those comprehensive questions, Mulara Wood. Now, before we move to the next interviewer, one of the organizers, Professor Jacob Halliso, will make an announcement.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on the platform this afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm driving through a tunnel right now. Pardon me, but I have the orders of Professor Tony Falola as one of the technical crew on the interviews to appreciate the panel that's just the panelists that just finished speaking, and basically to remind us that the interview, as it runs as it's running right now, is being live streamed across several platforms to various parts of the world. And while we like to have our small, cozy Zoom room, usually not less than 100,000 people are watching this live on Facebook, YouTube, Balaroye TV, Tickets, platforms, and so many others who have the right to restream this to their various audiences. And we appreciate Mr. Afolayan for taking the time to be on today. A lot of people are watching because it's him. We also thank our eminent audience members. We can see in the audience people who are also artists in their own rights. I see Professor Apache Ezebo, Professor Kweju Olaiwola. We see Mr. Victor Ekpok in the audience. I think I saw Professor Richard Joseph, and there are several others. You have to forgive us. Oh, there is Prince Yemisi Shilon, who himself was a guest just a short while ago. And the eminent scholar of film, Professor Kenneth Harrow. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We'll continue with the interview. That was just a small commercial break, and I hope we'll enjoy the rest of the interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next interviewer is Steve Ayorinde. Steve Ayorinde has over 30 years of experience in the Nigerian media industry as an award-winning journalist, editor, and publisher with a special interest in culture and film. He is a former editor of The Punch, Nigeria's largest selling national daily, and was managing director, editor-in-chief of National Mirror newspapers. He served as a commissioner in Lagos State between 2015 and 2019, first in the Ministry of Information and Strategy, and later in the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture. An alumnus of Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Nigeria, and University of Leicester, United Kingdom, Steve was also a European Union Fellow at the Foundation Journalist in Europe, Paris, between 1997 and 1998. A comprehensive one-year training for mid-career journalists. He is an alumnus of the State Department's International Visitors Program in the United States. He is a foundation jury member for the African Movie Academy Awards and a member of the International Federation of Film Critics, through which he has served on international film festival juries in Cannes, Berlin, Mumbai, Stockholm, Taormina, Cairo, and Luxor. Is the author of the following text, masterpieces, are critics' timeless reports. Abokede, the man that healed the city.
Okay.
Sorry, please. Thank you very much. Abokede, forgive me. The man that healed the city. Abokede, we are grateful. Abokede, the man that healed the city, as well as Cascade of Change, a decade of liberal thoughts. And finally, 3 decades of Nigerian cinema, a publication history running from 2008 to 2022, therefore clearly a consummate scholar. Steve is CEO of Patrons Media Limited, publisher of the Culture newspaper, and a TV anchor and analyst on a Rice News channel in Lagos, Nigeria. Steve, please, let us have your illuminations on this subject.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Can everyone hear me? Good evening from Lagos, Nigeria.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Gratitude to Professor Toyin Falola for providing this platform. I reckon that I am one of the closest persons to Kunle Afolayan, but I'm also one of his biggest critics. So this platform is an opportunity to take our discourses on film beyond what we do at our own enclave, usually over drinks and other things. And thank you, Molara Wood, for the brilliance of the first 30, 40 minutes of your questions. Thank you indeed. Okay, so Kunle, if you're ready, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, so my first question will be, I think it's in order first to congratulate you, like Molara did, for the brilliance, for the wonderful job in Anikulapo, your last film. My question is, I know that the script essentially came from Odu, which was meant to be a series. So my question is, how much of Odu went into Anikulapo, which is a feature film? And then how can you confirm truly if Anikulapo will ultimately go into a limited series on Netflix? And if that is correct, wouldn't that amount to an overkill? I'm asking this because of, maybe in part because of the Eyakala, who had the power to save people, but couldn't prevent death for itself. What else would people expect if Anikulapo goes into a series?
All right, Mr. Ayori, thank you very much for that question. I can't remember when exactly I put that out, but I remember a few years back, because I've been working on Odu now at Anikulapo for, I think, over 6 years, 7 years. And the background story was really the Saro and Akala story, which was a verse in Otuifa, one of the Otuifa. But then, of course, in film, if you're going to tell a story, for it to have, the right ingredients and elements and all, you have to find a way to infuse maybe some fictions. So the Akala story is true, Saro is true to the Otufa, but there are quite a number of other things, other elements, that we infuse that, we're not in that Odu. And this was the original idea when we came up with, because when I started, nursing this idea, it started with Babele, telling that story, and then I brought together a group of writers, Tunde Babalola, Rocco Iwela, Tunji Aziz, Professor Tunji Aziz, and we started with Babele, and we had an interactive session And after that session, we went further to sit again and then develop like a 10-episode season 1, and then do like a layout for season 2. But I shopped this around, for like 4 or 5 years, and I couldn't get it off the ground. And then even with Netflix, I started talking to Netflix as far back as 2015. 2016. Yeah, I can't remember. I don't know if you remember one trip we went to Cannes and ended up in Paris. And throughout that, our trip to Paris, I had a Zoom meeting with Netflix where I was looking for internet up and down in one hotel that we didn't eventually stay, and we had to move. And that was the day
that was 2016 or so.
2016 and yeah, and Netflix then said, look, it's something they could take on. I think they referenced one Brazilian film that is very science fiction in nature, and I said, look, I don't do things like that. Anyway, fast forward, they pitched that we test the water with Anikulapo as a film, and we did that. And to the glory of God, it became a success. And then the conversation started with getting it to the original proposition, which is making series, out of it. So right now, we are, I'm not going to give details, but I think this is happening this year. We're going to be doing the first season of the series. And in terms of story, look, I've always wanted to, because what informed the story was actually my fascination and interest in, exploring the idea of Orisha, the Yoruba Orisha, and all of that, and finding a way to also create a balance between, merging that with entertainment, visual arts, without necessarily coming out as pitching a particular religion. If that is how it comes out eventually, I don't mind, but I'm saying that would be sort of boring. So what we want to do is create masterpieces that capture the essence of the Yoruba mythology and the world beyond us, and these worlds which was not clear to a lot of people. We want to use audiovisual to do justice to that.
So Eyakala will return, right?
Most likely.
All right, Kunle, thank you for the clarification, because a lot of people, are actually interested in, will Anikulapo return as a series or not? Now that you have confirmed, I think that's brilliant. Which leads me to the next question about the thematic focus in most of your films. My question to you is, what informs your fascination with the idea of the mysterious? Why are you constantly looking to solve mysteries or have mysteries solved? From Irapada, your first feature, you remember the albino, and the way that you constructed, that story, up till, figuring, of course, with the 7 years of plenty, 7 years, everything. October 1 had its own mysteries that needed to be solved, which was the theme throughout your film. The citation to the young boy in Senegal, who had the key to the whole thing, to the CEO, the chair, the mystery chair, that got everybody killed at the end of the day, up to Anikulapo and the mysterious bird and everything. Is that about you? Is that what fascinates you? Why the mysterious? What's your interest in it?
Well, honestly, I think I have a mind that wanders around a lot, because I think there's so many things in this world that seem unclear to us, especially those of us with not just ordinary eyes. And several times my brain asks a lot of questions. And what I do is when I can't find answers to those questions, I try to put it to you people to say, look, okay, I have this thing bothering my mind and I can't seem to have an answer to it. So maybe if I throw it out, feedback from people will help resolve or give better, understanding or clarity on some of those things that have been bothering my mind. More so, look, we live in a world where religion seems to have messed up people's minds. Nigeria, for example, if you're not a Christian and you don't come out to claim to be Muslim, then you can't be anything else, which for me, I also think it's Antorawa and all of that. Albinism, for example, you remember I did some films for Netflix, Roti, Tribuna, and Omugo. And these were films commissioned by Mnet. And Tribuna was a story of albinism from beginning to the end. And it's a shame that, it's solely Netflix. It's owned by Mnet, so it's not something we could put on Netflix and bigger platforms. But we went into details of what people with albinism face and, how the world perceives them and, the kind of things they go through. In Roti, we dealt with the story of reincarnation, and I'm sure in the future, I really would still love to play around that because, and I'm sure I've had this discussion with you before, and this will feature in my book that I'm currently working on, and I also hope to do a film version of it. Look, I still see my father. I don't know if it's reincarnation or not, but at least in the last 15 years, he appears in my dream. We have conversation, and most of the conversation we've had have come to pass. And whether people believe it or not, it is the truth. How do you explain that? And when I say that to people, some people, of course, might be like, oh, but some people, I'm sure they don't believe, but it is the honest truth. Because in these dreams, I'm conscious of the fact that he's no more, and I'll say to him, let's quickly wrap the conversation because you're leaving now, So that is mystery, that's, and up till now, it happens, So I live in that world where my mind wanders, and I try to, things that I find difficult to answer, I put it to people, I put it in motion pictures, and I put it out so that people can also learn and have a feel of what I'm going through.
All right, so it's good to know that part of the attraction to the mysterious is also because you speak with your dad. I wouldn't want to say you speak with the dead, Abuku Soro, but that's fine. Okay, my next question. The figurine, your film, almost 14 years ago now, is described by many critics, media, the public, as being of particular interest because it redefined the new Nigerian cinema, if you like, Nollywood. It came 17 years after living in bondage and Nashewo to Remeka. And I think that there's nothing that put the figurine in the proper perspective than this book. I'm sure you remember the book, that your brother edited, Professor Afolayan, because of the quality in the film. My question quickly is, it came 17 years after living in bondage and Nashewo to Remeka, and almost 14 years after. What is your candid assessment of Nollywood? I prefer to say the new Nigerian cinema. And where do you see yourself? Your dad was one of the veterans and the pioneers and one of the greatest. Are you trying to outshine your dad? which is what every kid wants to do. And where do you see yourself industry?
Okay, well, thank you for referencing that book. I think what actually informed that book was, I think my brother never knew what goes into, because even when, during the time of my father, when he used to do film or make films, Professor Afolayan was not, he was more of a bookworm and he won't follow us to those locations. And when I was doing figurine, I think he saw what I went through because we were together for a few weeks and he saw how I was editing at home and all the challenges that I went through. And it was like, you guys, you don't sleep. How do you manage? What is this? And it was very inquisitive, asking a lot of questions. And then Jonathan Haynes and some other collaborators also, collaborated to the book. For me, the industry is what the industry is. What I'm excited about is the fact that right now, there is growth. There has been tremendous growth in that space. When figurine was made, there were not many players, who were doing that level of production. But right now, there has been, you have a lot of studios who now do, even though most of them focus more on the commercial value of this content. And this was also informed, or this is to balance the demand by, the distribution platform, the streaming platforms, the cinemas, and all of that. Where do I see the industry? For me, I don't know. I think along the line, some people will fail. We've been here, since figurine, I think we've been consistent to a large extent. If you know my story and you follow my journey, and I don't think there's any year that, or any film that we have done that really does not have or create any impact. I'm not saying, they are the best films around, but at least there'll be something different about those films. And this is why today you stop someone on the road and you say, mention 5 Kunle Afolayan's films. They'll be able to mention it. And this is something that I'm excited about. It means that we're not just making film for commercial reasons, and we're not making films that will come and then fade out. We've made films that will stand the test of time. Figurine was done then, went through different platforms, but then up till now, we're still able to put them on different distribution platforms for people to see all around the world. And beyond that, most of my films are used in schools, in universities all around the world. I never knew Professor Falola until it occurred to me that, he said to me, look, I've used your films, to teach in my schools, for many years. And there are so many other people like that who use those films. And for me, that is a legacy. Do I want to prove anything, or do I have anything to prove to anyone? I'll say no. I just want to continue. As this thing comes, for now, we have projects lined up, till like another 3 years. So we're busy, the mind is busy, the brain is busy, physically we're busy. And I pray that it continues, and then we find time to, relax in between and drink wine, and then, but I love what I do because it allows me. Right now, I'm in Abidjan on my way to Nigeria. I was meant to arrive yesterday. The flight got canceled, and they put us in this hotel. So film takes you around the world. I just left Ouagadougou, FESPACO, where I was president of a jury, and then you get to walk and meet with filmmakers from all around the world. Those are the things that comes to you when your films, stand out, or when you do things that are different, from what everybody's doing. So I'm not in competition with anyone. I don't determine, or I don't look at what other people do. Yes, I watch a lot of films. I enjoy and appreciate great works. I rub minds with, great filmmakers, TK, Tadeo Giton, a lot of young filmmakers. But then there's no competition. We're artists, we're creative people, but we must feed. And I think there's a balance these days with the fact that the distribution channels are now open and everybody's making ends meet to a large extent.
All right, that's a good one. A couple of things to unpack there, but I'll let that lead me to the next question, because you have spoken so glowingly about the streaming giants, the distribution, channels, particularly Netflix. And I know that you've been busy with them in the last 3 years or thereabouts. I know that you will be busy with them again in the next couple of years. My question is, hasn't this taken you away from the Nigerian cinema and the audiences that come with the Nigerian cinema? In other words, do you risk being seen or tagged as a commissioned filmmaker who has now been taken over by Netflix? Good money, yes. Less stress because of all the cinema troubles that you go through. But then Netflix looks like anybody that they like, and it shows how good you are. But then they just hold you down for as long as they're interested in you. Is that the idea?
Netflix is not my father's platform. There is no, as a matter of fact, when I was reached out to, the person who reached out to me, Brian, is not a Nigerian, he's in LA somewhere. And I think it's just my work. Now, are they taking me away from Nigeria audience? No, as a matter of fact, they've exposed my film to bigger audience in Nigeria and beyond. And that is what we've always prayed for. You and I have been to festivals where, you get there and then you're looking for sales agents and distributors everywhere. And you wake up in the morning and you go to that sales agent and they keep asking you who is in your film. And they say, we'll bring a copy. And the conversation would never continue. So it was a struggle for like 10 years trying to get our films distributed. Yes, okay, we have the few screens where we put our films and then you monetize and that's it. And then when you look at the sharing ratio, you look at what government takes from the money, over 20-30%, on VAT and tax, and then all of those things. For me, look, it's never felt this great, in the sense that you do a film, your film is seen by 10 million people all across the world. But then I'm very open. Netflix cannot take me. I mean, if I remember I was having conversation with the CEO or MD of Showmax the other day, doctor, and so I'm very open. I've had conversation with Prime. I'm very open to working with people. But the thing is, in the course of our journey, you're going to make different kind of films. You have films that will only go on YouTube. You have films that will go to charity, that will never see big screen. You have films that will only go on big screen. And you have films that will go on streaming platforms. But the important thing is to understand how to strike the balance, to say, well, it's just another film. Let me put it here. When we did Anikulapo, we did in the contract, we were not supposed to go to cinemas at all. But we pleaded with Netflix to say, look, can we do limited release, and all of that. And they amended the contract so that, to allow, that to happen. And we have our own independent film. So we're not like exclusively locked to Netflix. We can make our own films. Like, we have films that, series that we are trying to do independently, and Netflix can then, maybe buy into the rights and all of that. But we can do whatever we want with them. But then you can sign deals with them to say, look, these ones will exclusively do them for you. I mean, that is what Mohabud is doing. That is what, ink block is doing. That is what Film One, a lot of people are doing that. So my father does not own Netflix, and I don't have shares, but they are good collaborators, and I would love to continue to work on them.
All right, that's a great one. Quickly to the next question, because of time. You've just finished shooting your latest film, Ijongbo. I know how painstaking you are when it comes to releasing information about the film. So my question is not about what Ijongbo is all about, because we will get to see it. But we are glad, of course, that, again, you are putting the Como project into good use. My question is just a very small, sharp, simple one. It's about the spelling. And we had a discussion about it earlier. And I know how you're particular about things like that. Recalling when Mokalik came about, your explanation was that this is how we, in Kwara or in Ibadan, this is how we will say in the rural grassroots area, Mokalik, not mechanic. But for Ijongbo, you have it spelled without the N, IJOGBON. That's what you have. That's what the internet has.
Yes.
But if you check with, I don't know, academics or even authors who have had Yoruba books, Yofagunwa, etc., they spelled it with the N, IJONGBON. Is this deliberate, or you are misled by the internet?
Okay, I never consulted internet to know the spellings of Ijogmo. Look how it sounds to me, Ijogmo. It's not Ijogmo. And of course, Professor Tunji Aziz also said that it's actually spelled IJANGBON or GBAN. I mean, that is how okay
That's
people pronounce it. So so I told him that maybe in Okeo, that is how you people pronounce it. But the important thing is, put it into context. Do we understand the meaning or not? Ijogmo means, at first, Tunde Babalola, the writer, we were having conversation. And for me, I said to him that, look, Ijogmo is tied more to individuals, like when they say Onijogbo, Oniwala, like you have. But then I now remember Obesere's song where he says, Wala ti de baboni lokoso Ijogbon ti de baboni Susanna. So it can also, be used as, something that covers people, situation, and all of that, and not necessarily tied to individual. I don't know how it's pronounced in Ibadan, but in my own, I grew up understanding, the accent and the pronunciation for me has always been Ijogmo. And look, the truth is, people when we put it out there, the audience whom we're making the film for, nobody, up till now, I think like yesterday, for example, somebody still wrote a comment on my page and said, that I should stop pronouncing Anikulapo as Anikulapo, that is Anikulapo. And the guy will spell with the me, re mi 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 do. And Anikulapo is re mi 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 mi. So Boba she yonigaluku nikoshe mu, but Ijogmo is clear, and I believe is well understood by everyone.
All right, Ijogbo, thanks. I'd like you to speak a little about the filmmaker as an entrepreneur. When you've made all those films, when you're blessed with projects like the ones coming from Netflix, I see that filmmakers are not using, to use the normal expression, using all their 10 fingers to eat. Filmmakers like your good self are now investing in facilities that are, about entertainment. You have the Cap Hub, you have the Cap Cinema, the Cap Academy, and you are having the audacity of what you are having in common, Ibujai, the Cap Resort, is just mind-blowing. Talk to us about what informed that. Is this about you being a businessman and trying to be smart, or you are saving for the rainy day and for retirement? I see that others also do it. Muabudu has Ebony Life Studios, Bonali Austin Peters has Terraculture. You are not just making films, you're also creating businesses and opportunities. What lessons can younger ones learn from that type of entrepreneurial spirit?
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think for me, what comes to mind first, especially when I wanted to start this thing, and I'm sure you can attest to this, is me just trying to create a space where I can accommodate or bring together creative minds, people of like minds, who rather, go out and, chill with, other creative people, talk film, talk art, talk music, and all of that. And that was what informed Cap Hub. Within Cap Hub, of course, the cinema was because I've always wanted to start curation, curating, films from different part of the world, not for commercial reason, but to help in educating a lot of the younger generations. When we go to festivals, we see films from different part of the world, and then you get to ask questions. They will bring filmmaker, and there will be question and answer session. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, 6. Yeah. No, let that bus go. I'm doing a meeting now, but I'll maybe get it. I can only listen. Thank you. Sorry. So for me, that was what informed setting up the cinema, so we could curate, films for people to learn and have better understanding of world cinema. The academy is because it's necessary. Capacity building is important, and not everybody can afford to travel, to other countries to get this education. And thanks to the likes of MasterCard Foundation, Netflix, bringing USC on board and all of that. And that is what has helped the programs we're currently doing, in partnership with MasterCard Foundation and Netflix. Now with Cap Village, this is not a retirement thing. Well, at the end of the day, that is what it seemed to be like. I mean, if it's an entity and it's my property, it's mine. But the first motive that came to mind when I started that was because I want to have a place where, a serene and, a nice, quiet, nature-like place where filmmakers can come, work, and then relax. And that is why it's not just a studio. It is not just a film village. It's a film village and a resort, and people who are not even filmmakers can come there to see, have glimpse of, like you go to Warner Brothers and you go to, all these other studios, in different Disneyland, in different part of the world, to see what goes on there. It's a business structure, but then I don't even have the business plan to run it. So at the moment, I'm just putting my resources because I have nothing else to use it for. So if we make money, we put it back in the business. And we also do this so that it makes things a bit more comfortable for us. Setting your scenes and creating your set in one locality where everything is one place helped. We did Anikulapo I didn't know Ijogbon would be shot there. We were going to shoot another film, but I thought, look, if we go back to that place, it makes things easy for us. Why not let's create a story around what, we already have there? And that is what informed Ijogbon. And now we're going to go and do an Nikulako series by God's grace. So it means that for another 3 months, we're going to be there. And that would help develop that place more. There's no area boy, there's no, it is so serene. So at the end of the day, it's retirement benefit or retirement program or retirement, but then it's way beyond, trying to put a business structure in place.
Okay, as we try to, come to a gradual close for this, segment of the question, let me just put two together so that you can take them both. You just left FESPACO, right? On your way back to Nigeria, you were president of the Perspectives section, the president of the jury. What's your impression? I mean, are film festivals still useful to you Nigerian filmmakers? And then what lessons can our own film festivals? We've got AFRIV, we've got IREP, we've got Abuja International Film Festival, we've got Zuma, the government one. I'm not so sure how much of international attention they command, but then when you go to Cairo, when you go to FESPACO, when you go to Joburg, there seems to be a lot of buzz. AFRIV has that, IREP does. What lessons are there and are they still useful? Second part quickly, so that you can take them both together. Nigerian writers have brought home the Nobel and the Booker Prize. Musicians have brought home the Grammys. When are you guys bringing home the Oscars? And I'm not talking about the politics of the Nigerian Oscar Selection Committee, because the only thing that could earn you at all will be the foreign language film. But I'm talking about the big picture. I'm talking about what the Indians have succeeded in doing, what the Filipinos have succeeded in doing with the Oscars. I'm not saying you guys should seek validation from abroad, but I'm saying that we can compete. And what's stopping us? What's delaying us? When should we expect the Oscars and the Palme d'Ors from Cannes and Golden Bear from Berlin, etc.? When, Kunle Afolayan?
Okay, all right. Before I answer that question, please, I really have just about 25 minutes more because I need to run to the airport. Okay, I'll start with the festivals. I think, look, before now, you and I know, we've been going to festival for how long, but how many Nigerians do you see, apart from those, some people who used to make films back then, and now they're into politics of cinema and politics of filmmaking. And I think they still do festival now, but core filmmakers, we don't have a lot of Nigerians. I mean, look at, everybody's focus is commercial. Everybody just want to make films that go to box office, and and that seems to be the trend. But some of us are used to it. Some of us have a good understanding of what festivals bring to the table, because it's not, film is an art, and it's not just about how much you make from making films. It's about posterity. It's about, it's also a representation of not just you, but your country, your lineage, your everything. And I'm glad that CJ's film, Mami Water, did well, at FESPACO, also because it was a co-production. Most of the films that we do in Nigeria are, like commercial based. So you just have investors who just want to put money and reap, their investment and profit. And that is why most of those films don't go to festivals, because they don't see the need. But of course, AFRIV is doing so well. You have people come from different parts of the world. IREP, quite a number of guys who attended FESPACO, have also been to IREP, and they've been to AFRIV, and they've been to other festivals, in Nigeria, Zuma. And you can't force anybody. And I've always said this from the beginning. people are into the world of cinema for different reasons. Some people just see the glamour and they just see, some people see the money, some people see fame, and some people are doing it because they are born to do it. So you can't have everybody, if you say to them, come to festival, they'll be like, what are they doing there? What am I, those are the kind of questions that they ask. But I think it's something we should encourage more. We all don't have to start up, festivals, but let's support the ones that we have and get them bigger. Now, regarding Oscars, you and I know that for a film to get, to the point that you've raised, the parameters are different. One, Slumdog Millionaire was a co-production with the British. It's not just a core Indian film. A lot of films that have attained, that Oscars, I'm not sure about the Korean film, but because I know that they stay true to their thing, and even the Japanese, but most of the time is still co-production. There's always like a American hand or funds or British hands or funds. So those pushing the agenda comes from different parts, of the world. So the convention and the push is bigger. For us, we're just about trying to put our feet on the Kenya, and our people are already spoiling it. So, and you can't, if you film even outside Nigeria, you can't just choose to claim a different country. They will tell you or submit through another distribution company. No, they will refer you back to your country. And that is why this is very painful and it's very different. But I'm hoping that maybe sometime this will change. Maybe you don't have to go through, this platform. Maybe you could go through, I don't know. But you people, you journalists, and you happen to be one of them, you guys don't say the truth all the time. What happened with that last year Oscars thing, all of those things should have fallen apart. But Nigeria, it's more PR and, and we and all of that. So maybe when people start saying, let's call a spade, maybe things will get better.
All right, Kunle, thank you so very much for your answers. I believe that the moderator is there to usher in the last segment so that we can save your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that magnificent discussion that went from the metaphysical, the spiritual, to the entrepreneurial, deeply engaging. Now, our last speaker, our last interviewer is Pelumi Folajimi. Pelumi Folajimi is a lecturer in the Department of Dramatic Arts of Bafemi Awolowo University. His areas of scholarly interest include African drama, comparative literary studies, film studies, and popular culture. He was trained at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and he's pursuing his PhD at the moment at Louisiana State University. Pelumi, please allow us to apologize for the encroaching into your time, and particularly since our guest is needing to be on his way shortly. Could you please oblige us with limiting yourself to 2 questions? We are most grateful.
Okay, thank you, Ogbeni Kunle Afolayan. It is great to have you here. Of course, I've been permitted, which is a lot of privilege, to ask you 2 questions. And I will do that. Your films often celebrate inter-ethnic and intercultural solidarity and union. We have such examples in Phone Swap, the interaction between the Igbo tradition and the Yoruba tradition, We have that example too in The Bridge, where you provide us with a scenario of inter-ethnic marriage and the conflict surrounding it. Of course, in October 1, you made a lot of effort to bring in different ethnic groups, in Nigeria in conversation with one another. Okay, of course, we have that example too in The Figurine, Mona and our interactions with Shola Femi. More so, you often choose your cast actors, especially in the mentioned films, from different ethnic backgrounds and different ethnic groups in Nigeria. And this is my question for you. What was the nature of your relationships with filmmakers, actors, actresses, and other collaborators and stakeholders in the Nigerian film industry?
All right. Thank you very much, Palumi, for the question. I think I have very cordial and good relationship with a lot of colleagues. But even at that, Nigeria is what Nigeria is. When I started out in 2006 with Irapada, Irapada was where I actually decided to test run, making a multilingual film and bringing in, actors of different ethnics. And we had Angela Phillips, dating this guy who is Hausa and all of that. And, my character was dating a Yoruba, and the soundtracks were original songs from the North. We shot majorly in Kaduna, and all of that. But then I was still, even with the film, I still was tagged as Yoruba actor, for a very long time. But it really doesn't matter. The honest truth is I've sort of proven, my style, my ways, and how I like to use film to sort of unify or unite, the country, and also to show people that film really does not have a particular language. You can do a film without dialogue and it still will make sense. And that is what we were taught in film school. And in this age and time, you can do a film in Ibibio and dub it in several other languages, or even, do subtitles. For me, I even like to watch films, in subtitles and not, dubbed. I think I have a very good relationship, with people. But if you read some of the things that have been written about me, some people will still say it's tribalistic, and some people will still say it will only feature Yoruba people. Some people, it really doesn't matter. You can't please everyone. But if you're a talent and you're a real talent, where you're from will not even come to people's head. What people will always see is what you're capable of doing and the kind of talent that you have. But to a large extent, I think I have good relationship with
Okay. You said something about what people have written about you. Of course, Ken Harrow is there, or Ken Harrow is here currently, Gbemisola Adewuti is here, Muradun Adejumobi is here. All of them are written about you. Writing in 2014, Muradun Adejumobi says that the streaming platforms, African Magic, DSTV, they are some of the avenues through which film entrepreneurs make a lot of profit. And of course, she wrote in 2014, now in 2021, 2020, 2019, you have been a major feature, a major presence on Netflix and some other streaming platforms. So you have great presence on that platform. Also, talking about reaching international audience, you have achieved a lot in that area. Writing in 2008, Biodun Jeifo described the Nigerian film industry as one which features cacophonous productions. Of course, Ken Harrow is here. Ken Harrow also, of course, Ken Harrow in his book, Trash, he also talks about some of the low quality productions that we see in Nigerian films. and writing in 2016. Sorry, writing also in 2014. Amela Garitano wants that if you want to submit your manuscript to us in black camera, don't generalize, because Kunle Afolayan and Tunde Kelani have brought new dimensions, new direction to the perspective through which the Nigerian films can be discussed. I provided what scholars have said about you to make you know that indeed you have achieved a lot in the Nigerian film industry, and you have brought new perspectives to the study of the Nigerian film. And now, with all the achievement that you have made in the film industry, I will push my second and last question to you. And this is the question. With all that you have achieved at the end of your career in the movie industry, what do you want yourself to be remembered for?
I don't know, honestly. It is automatic, sort of, that I'll be remembered for my works. And all I want to do is keep my name intact, keep impacting. And when I'm gone, I really will care less what anybody will say about me, because I'll be gone. But then some of these things you've referenced are things that people will say about me. There are things that people are already saying. There are things that have been documented, and there will still be more to be documented. So these will be references, for people. And this is more important to me than what is posted on social media. My works are being documented. My works are being analyzed. My work are being discussed. What more can I possibly, ask for? So again, when I'm gone, I'm gone. And I just will say thank you to all of those who have taken out time to research my works, and yeah.
Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pelumi, that was a fantastic demonstration of compression. We deeply appreciate it. Kunle Afolayan, we are grateful for your presence. Since we know your time is extremely short, and we are allowed to make some, members of the audience are allowed to make some comments, which you are not to respond to, but just to take note of. Do we have time for that?
Yeah, we can do 10 minutes.
Okay. Let's start from Richard Joseph. Each person should be as brief as possible, 1 minute.
Okay, very good. 1 minute. Richard Joseph, absolutely delighted to listen to you, Mr. Afolayan. I'll be following up with Professor Falola because there's so much to share. Two things, remind me of that great period that we had at Ibadan and Lagos and Ife with Biodun Jefo and Kule Omotosho and Femi Oshofesad and the conversations we had there. By the way, I want to learn about your CAP village or whatever the name is there, and I'm glad you're going to consider including others and filmmakers. And then the second thing is just, this incredible platform Falola has created, enabling us to talk across disciplines and experiences. So my quick question to you is that Nigeria is living through this traumatic experience called elections. I don't want to push you too hard, but I think of all this conversation we're having today, and at the same time, our people are going through such incredible difficulties generally, and also in this transition. So anything you want to share, thank you.
Thanks. At the present moment, we are not asking that Kunle should respond on account of time. He will just take the comments, and later on, he could share with us his insights. Is that okay, sir? Good. Now, could we please have Bimbola Adelakun? Sorry for struggling with your name, madam.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Kunle Afolayan. I first of all must take a few seconds to appreciate your work. I saw Anikulapo and I thought, oh my goodness, you've come really far, since the days of Irapada. and I wish you many more success. I know you are very particular about your work. You are seeking perfection, and it will continue to get better. Now, I have lots of questions. I'm going to try to condense them into a few things. One is the issue of criticism in the industry. I'm very particular about the film criticism itself, because when Anikulapo came out, there was so much review criticism, which tells you how much people, relate to it, to try to explain, to try to critique it, to try to do whatever with it. But sometimes I think that people confuse pointing out what is wrong with a film with what film criticism is, right? Sometimes the critic is the person that situates the vision of the artist properly, right? But I didn't typically see that. There's so much criticism. So what are your thoughts about film criticism in Nigeria? And do you even have any favorite critic, film critics? Who are the ones that you look to for interpretation of your work? And two, I've always wanted to ask this question from a director, so I'm going to seize this opportunity to ask, right? How does the mind of a director work, right? Like, do you see in pictures, do you see in images, and how does it work on a regular basis, and how do you translate your mind into visual images? And then my third question is, like, what are the changes you would like to see in the industry? What are the things that you think, like, okay, if we have this, we can position ourselves much better for the bigger opportunities that are coming our way? And then 4, what are the sources of your stories that you tell? Where do you find them? What inspires you? I know you talked about the Odu, but generally, what are your inspiration? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Kunle, please feel free to guide us as we move forward. You know that your time is tight.
Yeah.
Will we hear from Oyeniyi Bukola, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Kunle. I was the one who wrote one of the most scathing review of your Anikulapo, and my anchor to that review has to do with the use of Odu. In 2022, I had this opportunity to engage with Professor Wande Abimbola, and like I mentioned in my review of your work, Anikulapo, Odu has 2 parts. One is recent, the other is old. Which one are we referring to? That's 1. 2, part of what Professor Wande Abimbola made us to believe in his old essay in Saburi Biobaku's History of the Yorubas. He actually stated that we have Aseda and, oh God, I've forgotten the other one. Talking about the recent and the old. And if you look at the way and manner in which Anikulapo was presented to us, it was a fine work, extremely fine work. But when we focus on things that were not done right, and that will be my departure from Bimbo, when we focus on things that are not done right, it's not because we didn't like it. Why would we use your work if we don't like you? I use almost all your films were recommended to me by Professor Falola, like I stated in my review. But when we use it, we want to see Yoruba being represented for one key reason: heart mirrors life. When you and I are no longer here, how will people focusing on your work understand Yoruba land? Let me briefly cut this, end it with what you know very well. Efushita Aniwura today is regarded as one of the worst slave dealers in history. Whereas this real history is not that. It's what the movie world presented to us. And that's why everybody believes. Who is burying Efushita today? No one. No one wants to bear it. It is because of the power of your work, the omnipresence nature of Kunle Afolayan's work that led me to, I'm not going to say because we are from the same area, we are related, or I know him through somebody. I'm going to come hard on you because you are my own brother, who you may not know. That's why I came hard on you. And I'm so glad that in your various interviews, you refer to it as we are quarreling over it. We are not. If you are quarreling over it, it's because we are doing something good. So I don't want you to see criticism as anything bad. It's because we want the best to come from you. And the moderator...
Mr. Bukola, can we interrupt you at this point, if you don't mind?
Go ahead. I'm fine.
Thank you. Now, can we please have...
Just one more, please.
Could you speak, please?
No, can we have just one more question?
Yes.
I mean, one more comment, please.
From.
All right, thank you for the opportunity. I will just go straight to my question. You said you've been able to restore some of your father's films, sir. So my question is, do you plan to bring them back to mainstream distribution and exhibition? You know, this will be something so good for, especially my generation that doesn't know anything, you know, we know so little about the celluloid era. And, you know, as also a student of media studies, it will be really good for our generation. So do you plan on doing that? Thank you.
Okay, I can quickly answer that. Yes, we're planning to do that. We've released some in cinemas in the past, but we're discussing with some streaming platforms to see how we can bring them, you know.
Okay, that's magnificent. We are most honored. Are you leaving us now, or you still have some time for us?
I have to run now, unfortunately.
Good, we can let you leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
very
sharing the depths of your experience at various levels with us. We are deeply honored.
Well, let me also
rise
use this medium to say thank you to Prof for putting this together. I really appreciate it. I know you're a big fan of my works, and you know you have supported, you know, myself, Professor Afolayan, and all of that in a lot of ways. I want to say thank you to my sister, Molara Wood. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayorinde, my friend. Thank you very much for your time. And to answer Professor, I've forgotten his name, my brother from another who critiqued Anikulapo. Really, I don't fight over criticism. I just I pay less attention to it. And I had this discussion with my brother, Professor Afolayan, who always said, no, stay with the academia, you know, let them. And I'm like, look, that's your part. My own part is here. But I try to find a balance. But if I listen to all the critiques in the world, all the criticism that has been written about, you know, this film, I don't think I'll want to make another one. So, but I really appreciate the effort put into writing about my works. I really appreciate it. And on that note, I just want to say, Ireo. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We are most honored. Now, to bring this experience to a conclusion, could we have each of the interviewers to make a summative conclusion, a summative statement, 1 minute each? Thank you very much. Could we start with Molara Wood?
Okay, great. So final submission. The questions that one could put, the conversations that one could have with Kunle Afolayan, it could go on forever, really. I think what we've had today is just a snippet of the very rich work that he's already done so far. And I'm personally very excited for what is to come. And I hope that, you know, just as Kola Oyeniyi and many other people, it's important that we continue to engage with these films, because not just for the impact on our life and for what for the feedback to the industry, for the insights that it gives to the filmmakers, but for the culture and for the future. So I'm very hopeful. Thank you very much. And it's been wonderful to be part of this session. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Could Steve Ayorinde share with us his conclusions?
Okay. Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. For me, it's been a wonderful evening, and I appreciate every moment of it. I think that the Nollywood industry needs this sort of intervention, and we must applaud the effort by Professor Tony Falola for putting this together. From what you read about me earlier, I happen to have just written a book, basically trying to celebrate 30 years of what I call the new Nigerian cinema and Nollywood from 1992 up till last year. picking 30 each of those that I consider outstanding. And naturally, Kunle Afolayan, not only was he mentioned as one of the key directors, 30 that I picked, but one of his films was also picked as one of the 30, in my opinion, that define the industry. What am I trying to say? I'm saying that we can't have enough, really, of this type of intervention. Yes, criticism is good, but where it is necessary, let us also applaud them, which is basically what I try to do in that book. And like Dr. Anulika Ajina said in the blog to my book, our joy will be to have 30 additional books commissioned to project different aspects of the Nigerian film industry. What would I like to see after this brilliant outing today is to say, let us have a lot more, 10, 20, 30 in a year that will x-ray what is going on in the industry, predict what is there, but where necessary, let us also applaud and celebrate them. And I think that Kunle Afolayan will be one of the very few ones that deserve applause, really.
Thank you very much. Pelumi Folajimi, could you please help us to sum up?
Yeah, thank you. Ken Harrow raised his hand, but he didn't have time to talk. Now I have 1 minute. Is it appropriate I permit him my 1 minute to talk?
Please.
Ken Harrow, please talk. Use my 1 minute.
Are you there, sir? Ken Harrow?
He's here, he's here.
Oh,
Can
hi.
you hear us?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I was trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, clearly.
Well, this is really, what a wonderful, wonderful series of interviews. You people are amazing. And so I had one question for him. And I think Steve really highlighted this move towards new Nollywood is so damn important because the initial Nollywood films were aiming for a commercial audience using amateur qualities in making the film. They laid the groundwork, but really Afolayan moved us, if I can use that word, up to a professional level. And I'm really glad that we're calling it new because it's new and exciting. I don't give a damn about the Oscars. I think we've got something better than the Oscars because the Oscars are concerned so much with, the commercial success of a film. And what Afolayan is saying here is that he's got his own inspiration. He comes from Fespaco, and he sees the artistic quality in what he wants to accomplish in his films, not simply how many dollars, how many nairas he's going to make out of the film. So I'm interested in this question. I would have asked him this question. I asked you all this question. By moving to Netflix, moving to a platform that has its own limitations on what they're going to accept. That is to say, they are interested in dollars and only in dollars. What is the impact of the limitations that the large networks, the large platforms are imposing upon films that they accept? What does that do for the nature of the film? You can't, for example, we no longer have 3-hour films or series in that sense. He really has to move into a platform where there are algorithms that will dictate the limitations. I want to know what those limitations are in terms of what we could call global or world cinema, as opposed to the kind of independent production for which Afolayan was certainly famous and known with his earlier films. I don't know the answer to that. So I put that out to a question to you all. What do we see the impact of something like Netflix on the films that he's made in the last few years? I'd love to know people's response to that one, because I don't know the answer. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Ken Harrow. Pelumi Folajimi, thanks for that magnanimity on your part. It's deeply appreciated. So, regrettably, we are coming to the conclusion of this fantastic experience, which will remain indelible in my mind and in that of many people who have been here. We thank the Tony Fowler Network for this matrix through which we are rejuvenated through the world of knowledge, by very, very, very informed people in dialogue with a great artist. Thank you very much for coming here. Ah,